Well, the future of children is at a risk as millions are being forced to drop out of school and made to work. Well, this is what the head of the United Nations labor body said recently, and his words echo a trend which is persisting since the pandemic began. That is when economic hardship pushed children out of schools and into dangerous jobs. This crisis has only been compounded by the current challenges from the Ukraine war to inflation. In our next report, we show you why child labor is on the rise globally. Take a look.
160 million. That is the number of children worldwide who are still engaged in child labor. This was according to data compiled by the United Nations in early 2020, right before the pandemic hit. The number has only grown since. According to UNICEF data, in the world's poorest countries, slightly more than 1 in 5 children are engaged in child labor. This essentially means that children are being forced to routinely engage in paid and unpaid forms of work. Since the pandemic upended life globally, child labor has become more common. As household incomes took a hit and unemployment rose, children were forced out of their homes and schools and into work. This compromised their mental, physical and social development. This trend has continued into 2023. Let's break it down. Africa ranks the highest when it comes to children in child labor, a staggering 72 million. Asia and the Pacific rank second highest, followed by the Americas, Europe, Central Asia and the Arab states. When we speak of countries, Somalia is the worst performing country in the child labor index, followed by North Korea and Eritrea. This is according to data from 2020. In March this year, the International Labour Organization and UNICEF sounded an alarm. They said the number of children without access to social protection is increasing year on year. This puts them at risk of poverty, hunger and discrimination. This begs the question, despite so much awareness, why are children being forced into work when they should be learning in classrooms? For one, rising cost of living, supply chain disruptions. You see, the Ukraine war has plunged the world into a crisis. Energy and food prices are rising. Families are having to choose between one meal a day or no food whatsoever. The UN's labor body chief says the scenario has led to the worst form of child labor, with parents pushing their children into sex work. For nearly 2 decades from 2020, there was steady progress in tackling child labor. But recent conflicts and crises following the pandemic have plunged more families into poverty, forcing millions of kids into odd jobs. What about child labor laws? An International Labour Organization convention specifies that the minimum age for work should not be below the age for finishing compulsory schooling, which is ideally 15. Unfortunately, in developing countries, the minimum legal age of employment can be 14. They say children are the future. But what happens when their own future is at risk? Bureau Report, WION World is One.